Ladies and gentlemen, with this particular story, this is a story, and I don't think I've really used this very often, this phrase. When they say the wrong place at the wrong time, the mother that you see on the right-hand side of the screen was with her daughter. And I'll tell you guys the story, but they literally drove into a situation and ended up at the wrong place at the wrong time. And I'm going to tell y'all, this story really, really sucks for a lot of different reasons. Number one, because of where they ended up driving to, which ended up costing this baby her life. And I guess what was going on before they got there and what they were trying to represent is this story. It just don't get much dumber than this. Let me explain this story. There are two alleged gang members, and they have been indicted on charges related to the death of that 8-year-old girl who was gunned down during a Black Lives Matter riot in Atlanta last year. Those two fools. If I didn't tell you guys nothing else about this story, that one paragraph literally tells you everything that you need to know about this story. I'm going to read this again, and I'm reading this again, and I know it bothers some people. But if y'all come to hear the news, then this is not a news station. I'm not a newscaster. I'm here to give my opinion about what's going on in the black community, so to say, if you even call it that. But I'm going to assume that there's a black community, because it seems like there are people out there that care, that have some semblance of a black community. But it's funny how we keep pointing the finger at the police and the government and the president and blah, blah, blah. Everybody's racist and all of this stuff. But who are the ones who continue to keep perpetrating the most violence against ourselves? Huh? We can point out people like Dante Wright, Ahmaud Arbery, Alton Sterling, Walter L. Scott, Breonna Taylor, George Perry Floyd, Stephon Clark. And in this situation, this spawned because of an individual by the name of Rayshard Brooks. How many of you guys have ever heard that name before? You don't have to lie to kick it. If you ain't heard about it, it's cool. It's all good. You can just let us know. Rayshard Brooks, if you have never heard that name, then I'm going to give you guys some small details about that. Two alleged gang members, Tweedledee on the left and Tweedledum on the right. They have been indicted on charges related to the death of an 8-year-old girl who was gunned down during a Black Lives Matter riot. This is why I continue to say we're going to just change the meaning of Black Lives Matter, BLM, to Babies Lives Matter, because clearly black lives don't seem to matter as much as they do to black people as they do the rest of the world. It's just a really weird thing. Like, if we're going to say that black lives matter, shouldn't they matter to us? Shouldn't they be the most important to us? Ask yourself this. How can you be protesting a grown-ass man's death, a grown-ass man's wrongful death? This man has already gotten a chance to grow up, live a little bit of life. Maybe not live as full of a life as he could have, but he at least got a chance to grow up and become something great. It was more important to riot about the loss of his life than these same fools who are rioting to rob an 8-year-old black queen of her life. Let me tell y'all how this sounds to me. To me, this sounds like black women are way up here. Then there's a big ass empty gap. Then somewhere way down there at the bottom is black men. And then way Hold on, y'all. I got to reach way down. I got to touch the floor. I got to reach down. Way down there on the bottom of the level of importance is kids. Way down there at the bottom. Y'all understand what I'm saying? The importance of children is clearly lacking. You are rioting for a dead man. You can't bring that life back. Why would you tear up your own city for a dead man? It's just like I try to explain to people, continue to keep opening these stupid GoFundMes, talk about we needs to bury our baby because we just didn't have no life insurance. We just didn't have no money for life insurance. We's doing the best we can to provide for our babies. Could make the simple investment of life insurance like most normal human beings would have to do because everybody's going to die at some point. But you take all that GoFundMe money and you put it allegedly into the ground. And I say allegedly because I don't think no human being needs to be buried for $60,000 damn dollars. And I'm not saying this case. We're talking about another case, not this story, another case of somebody who asked for $60,000. You're not going to bury somebody for $60,000 damn dollars. That's stupid when you won't even take that type of money and that type of effort and invest it into living children. Yes? If babies' lives matter like they should, then why would you not make that investment in children while they're living? Put them in better conditions. Have them when you can actually freaking afford to pay for them and take care of them, and have them in a nuclear family in a protected environment under one roof in a safe neighborhood. Huh? If y'all know y'all living in a dangerous neighborhood, then why make kids? Simple. You ain't got money, why make kids? If you're broke, why make kids? Woo, wait. I know I just said a mouthful. I know some of y'all are just like, this boy is on fire. Can I ask a question before we get back to the story? This might get me flagged. I'm not sure if it's going to get me flagged, but I'm going to pray that you guys are responsible people who can listen to the sound of my voice and take it with a grain of salt. But I just don't understand the point and purpose of people who are broke, who are draining society, who are having more kids than those who can actually afford to take care of them. Let me skip past that point because I know some of y'all just pissed in your panties. So let's move past that. Secoriea Turner. That baby right there, 8 years old, was killed on July 4th of 2020. And yes, this is a story that happened last year, but there's a reason why I'm talking about this year, what just happened this month. But she was killed on July 4th of 2020 while riding in an SUV with her mother and her mother's friend near a Wendy's restaurant where Rashard Brooks, who was 27 years old, a black man was killed by the white police. By a white police officer just weeks earlier. A grand jury returned a 37-count indictment against Julian Conley, who was 19 years old, and Jerian McKinney, who was 23 years old, on Friday. Here's what they're facing. Conley is charged with malice murder and felony murder in Secoria's killing, and both men face aggravated assault, gun, and gang-related charges. Gang members. This case is a high priority for my office, according to Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis said, calling it one of the saddest cases that I've seen. We're alleging that Mr. Conley fired into a car when it failed to stop and respect their barricade that left the tragic killing of Secoriea Turner, Willis said during a news conference. Both men had previously been arrested in connection with her death and were being held with no bond. So let me actually, hold on. There's a little bit more here. Conley, who's 20 years old, was arrested last year. An attorney for Conley, who no longer represents him, has previously said that he was peacefully protesting and witnessed the shooting but did not open fire himself. No new attorney for Conley was listed online in online court records. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation last week announced the arrest of 23-year-old McKinney. No attorney who could comment on the charges was listed for him online in court records. Willis said that the two men were members of the Blood Street gangs. The Wendy's restaurant was set on fire the day after Rayshard Brooks' killing, and people protesting police brutality camped out at the site during the weeks that followed. Here's where it gets even more stupid. Makeshift barricades had been set up in the area by members of the Blood Street gang who were protesting the killing of Brooks. Willis said Brooks was also a member of the gang, but lawyers for his family said that they had no knowledge of such affiliation. But it seems like it makes sense because the Bloods seem to be very adamant about what they were trying to do. So it just seems like that makes sense. Authorities said armed men had been blocking roads that they do not own, in neighborhoods that they do not own, on streets that they do not own. They were making barricades, blocking roads, and turning some drivers away. As the driver of the SUV Secoriea was riding in approached the barricade, armed people began walking up toward the vehicle and signaling that the driver could not pass. On streets they don't own. They quote, "We are alleging that Mr. Conley fired into the car when it failed to stop and respect their barricade that led to the tragic killing of Secoriea Turner." This just gets stupider by the moment. Willis said Conley and McKinney are accused of guarding the barricade and encouraging the commission of various crimes as part of their participation in the Bloods, including aiming a firearm at least two other people in the car the same day Secoriea was killed. L. Chris Stewart and Justin Miller, attorneys for the family of Brooks, said they have no knowledge or information regarding any alleged gang affiliation of Rayshard Brooks. Willis said that she has video evidence that shows other people besides Conley and McKinney were involved in Secoriea's killing, and she urged anyone with the information to call her office. The city stopped tolerating protesters occupying the Wendy's site after Secoria's killing, and the charred shell of the restaurant was demolished on July 14th of 2020. So let me get this right. In order to protest an alleged gang member, Rayshard Brooks, murder by the police, you burn down, the solution is you burn down a Wendy's and shoot and kill an 8-year-old black girl. By the police, you burn down I have to say some very harsh things that are not going to sit well with some of you guys' sensibilities. I'm going to take y'all back to a little bit of the old school of DJ Just J. Okay? Some of my bigger videos are some, I feel like, happened just because I said some things that I guess didn't sit well with people's sensibilities. And I might say some things that might offend your sensibilities, but I got to say this. A black man, in y'all estimation, was murdered by the police, by the white police, you say. The way that you protest is to block streets that you don't own, to interfere with neighborhoods that you don't own, to interfere with businesses that you don't own. Stop people from driving places in which they have a right to go, which you don't own. And I want y'all to look at this. Matter of fact, shout out to Tyler Perry, by the way, because Tyler Perry, I forgot I had this picture up here, but he paid for this baby's funeral. So shout out to him. But do y'all notice those two fingers that she's holding up like this? Does anybody know what that means? That peace sign? Let me see if I can find right there. She's holding it up again. Let me see if I can find a solo shot. Kind of like this one. When she holds this up, what does this mean? What does this mean to y'all? When you see somebody do this, holding up the peace sign, what does that mean to y'all? Right here. What does that sign stand for? A lot of people have seen this sign. Some people might think it means peace and love. Some people might think it means like peace, as in like world peace, universal peace, unity. You could think of that sign as being like a universal good thing, right? But guess what that means to the thugs that took her life? What does the peace sign mean really to black people? What does it really mean? What does the peace sign really mean to black people? That peace sign, apparently this means to kill black girls. This sign means to kill black girls, and it means that children's lives don't matter to thugs. Children do not need to be protected. The peace sign means that children don't have a future. The peace sign means that adult lives that are taken by the racist white police, those lives mean way more than what we continue to do to ourselves. That's apparently what the peace sign means. Because if it doesn't mean that, because I don't believe it means that, but if it does mean that, then how else would you explain the way that you show unity in the black community, show solidarity in the black community by saying we don't want to lose any more black lives by shooting and killing a young black 8-year-old queen? To me, this baby will be a little princess. Matter of fact, what does that even say about the fact that these black men, black power, which one is it, right fist? Black power, that these black men were willing to shoot into the car that had two black women in the car. Maybe they didn't see the little girl, but they saw two black women in the car and they shot at the car anyway. So how are you protesting for a black man and a black life when you're willing to kill black people to make white people look bad for taking a black life? And you're saying black lives matter and black lives shouldn't be taken, but we can take black lives indiscriminately? If you don't understand what I'm saying, then you're dense. Something is wrong with you. My message is very simple. Either black lives matter or they don't. That's stupid to be so damn conditional. We're turning the guns on ourselves, but crying and whining when somebody else does the same and treats our house the same way that we treat our house. We keep our house nasty and filthy with trash and bullshit everywhere, but then get mad when you invite somebody over to your house or somebody comes over to your house and drops a piece of trash on the ground, and all of a sudden we want to have a freaking aneurysm about it. It breaks my heart to watch this continue to happen. And guess whose lives are being lost more than any? How many times am I going to have to do a story about children being shot at a goddamn Wendy's, at a McDonald's parking lot, getting shot 37 times, killing a baby girl, in a Chick-fil-A parking lot, and a shootout happens? Kids are playing at the park and a bunch of kids get shot. Kids are playing in front of their house and they get shot because fools are shooting across the breezeway at each other. Children can't even be safe inside their apartment houses because somebody comes and shoots it up and shoots up the wrong apartment building, the wrong apartment. It's one thing for us to get mad about what's happening to grown adults. It's understandable to a certain extent when people have these feelings in vitriol in some of these situations. I understand if you want to cry wolf in some of these situations. But for this to literally come right off the back of the death of Rayshard Brooks, and the first thing that you do to show black solidarity is you murder a little girl who could have grown up to become anything. She's holding up the peace sign. That baby could have grown up to be anything. She can't speak for herself nor defend herself against the tyranny of people who share her skin color and neighborhood and share their streets that they don't own. I don't even need to tell y'all the rest of the damn story. Let me give y'all the fair usage before I get mad. Let's get it.
Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107.
I honestly don't expect for anybody to have respect for us until we have respect for our damn selves as a whole, period. That's just weak.
Developing tonight, the parents of 8-year-old Secoriea Turner say they're grateful that 2 men are now formally charged. A 37-page indictment came down this afternoon. The little girl was shot and killed on July 4th last year. The Fulton County DA now says that the 2 men were gang members.
She also says Secoriea was caught in the middle of a violent protest. John Sherrick walking us through the case.
The parents of 8-year-old Secoriea Turner, certain that the 2 accused gang members arrested and just indicted in Secorea's death on July 4th last year, are not the only ones who were involved.
We are thankful that at least 2 of the men have been captured, and pray and hope that more arrests are made.
Secoriea Turner, an innocent victim, prosecutors say, of at least 2 members of the violent Bloods street gang. Indicted for murder, Julian Conley, accused of being the trigger man. Also indicted, Jerian McKinney, accused of participating. The DA says here's what happened. According to prosecutors, last summer, Conley and McKinney and other members of the Bloods had illegally set up a roadblock, protesting an Atlanta police officer who had shot to death an alleged fellow Bloods member, Rayshard Brooks, 3 weeks earlier during a DUI investigation. Then, on July 4th, Secorea's mother and a friend accidentally drove through the gang's roadblock. Secoriea was with them, and gang members opened fire, killing Secoriea. DA Fannie Willis says it was no protest, just gang violence.
Their motive was that a member of their gang had been killed, and it was outrage to the loss of that life.
Attorneys for Rayshard Brooks' family say they had no knowledge of Brooks being involved with any gangs. Conley and McKinney are in jail as prosecutors put together their case for justice for Secoriea Turner.
Happening right now, the family of Secoriea Turner speaking after the 2 men were indicted in her case today. Let's listen in.
Should be starting to feel great this year. Now, I don't think them the only 2 should be held accountable. I feel leader officials, I think everyone should be held accountable because no street in Atlanta should be taken over by no one. It's Atlanta. That's all.
Mr. Williamson, could you spell your first name for us?
Secoriey.
I really wish sometimes people would come up with a written statement. If you're not good at speaking off the cusp, which I know I'm not good at it, I think it'd be best to just come up with a written statement. I don't mean no disrespect to the father, but I don't know. I just think it'd be a better look.
Secoriey, like Secoriea. It's just a Y instead of an A.
And let me correct you guys in the chat. For those saying that it had nothing to do with protests, this was gang violence, it was both. I don't even understand why that would be a point of contention in the chat right now, but let me explain. It was both. It was gang violence and it was a protest. The death of Rayshard Brooks sparked the protest, and the protest participants happened to be gang members also. So it was both. Like, why would we even argue that?
We are thankful that at least two of the men.
Both of them were senseless. The protests were senseless. The death of Rayshard Brooks was senseless. The death of this baby was senseless. The death of Secoriea Turner was senseless also. All of it was senseless. Everybody plays a role in this. Understand that.
Hands have been captured, and pray and hope that more arrests are made. This assures that we is a step closer to justice for Secoriea and my family, and we will continue to fight to assure that justice is served for Secoriea. Thank you.
Any questions?
What elected officials do you think are responsible?
Those that we've listed in our lawsuit. City Council, Mayor, as well as the interim police chief. They're all listed in the lawsuit. We spell it out very clearly, and this criminal investigation has just, again, underscored the unthinkable happened in Atlanta.
Has the city filed a formal response to the lawsuit yet, and what is your reaction to the city's response?
Okay, we have just been listening to the parents of 8-year-old Secoriea Turner speaking after two men now face 37 charges in connection to her death. Those parents saying that they're grateful for that action, but they do believe that others should still be held accountable. You can read much more about this case and its history and how it connects to a police shooting that happened just weeks before on 11alive.com. Now at 11.
And yes, I agree, Leanne. Leanne said both lives were black, and isn't that the point? One life is not more important than anyone else's. I totally agree. Thank you for saying that. That's my point. If the lives matter, then the lives matter. And I believe that babies' lives matter, and they should matter first and above all.
New clue in the search for the killer of an 8-year-old girl in Atlanta. Newly released video shows a man carrying an assault rifle the night Secoriea Turner was shot and killed. It's a killing that outraged the city during a violent weekend.
Yeah, that's right, Aisha. Now police are determined to track down the people responsible for Secoriea's death. Today, we learned officers are looking for multiple suspects now. Chilling surveillance video you can't turn away from. A man in a white shirt and dark pants walking with an AR-15 assault rifle. Atlanta police think he could know something about the killing of 8-year-old Secoriea Turner.
I'm confident that somebody knows the name of this male.
Secoriea was in a car with her mother and a friend on July 4th when a group confronted them Saturday night on Pryor Road in southeast Atlanta. Someone opened fire, hitting their car multiple times, striking Secoriea, killing her.
We didn't mean no harm. My baby didn't mean no harm. Somebody knows something.
You shot and killed a baby. And it wasn't one shooter, there were at least 2 shooters.
APD says this isn't the only person they want to speak to.
So we believe at this point there's going to be at minimum of 3 additional suspects.
Take another look at this video as we
Think about that. 3 additional suspects. If they are convicted, I want y'all to think about this for a moment. We're going to have to start doing like these little math problems. Think about how many black lives will be lost to this senseless situation. Sherrod Brooks, Secoriea Turner, and potentially 3 other suspects. Two black lives are no longer on this earth, and 3 more potentially could spend the rest of their life in prison. And our society has lost 5 black lives from one idiotic situation. And it happens all the time.
slow it down. He could hold.
We didn't just lose 2 lives. We're about to lose 5 in total.
Hold critical clues about the 8-year-old's killer. So in the last 30 minutes, we learned movie mogul Tyler Perry said that he's going to pay for Secorea's funeral.
Second man now facing charges in an 8-year-old's death. Secoriea Turner. Now this new suspect is set to go before a judge for the first time in Fulton County. Jerion Amari McKinney was arrested by GBI following a gang investigation in Fulton County. Tracy A. McPeer joins us live from the Fulton County Jail right now. Tracy, tell us more about these charges.
Well, Jerion Amari McKinney is facing charges of murder, aggravated assault, pointing or aiming a weapon at another person, and charges related to gang activity in connection with Secoriea Turner's death back in July of 2020. Now, the night Turner was killed, she and her mother were in a car that was trying to turn into a parking lot on University Avenue, close to a Wendy's, where just a couple of weeks before, police had shot and killed a man, sparking protests. Now, in the days after the shooting, people had moved barricades onto University Avenue to try to block the street. Turner was shot and killed as the car she was in tried to get through. Now, police have said they believe multiple people were involved in the shooting and arrested Julian Conley about a week after her death. Then, just yesterday, we learned that McKinney is now facing charges too. Now, both McKinney and Conley are also facing aggravated assault charges from another situation that same night when police say they pointed weapons at another person just minutes before Turner was killed.
All right, Tracy, thank you for that update. So
now, here's the crazy thing. I don't know if y'all want to see this because I'm not sure that many people have seen this, but they actually interviewed one of the alleged people that was involved in her death. So I want to show y'all this because I just think y'all might want to see this. It's really odd because they put out a call for him to turn himself in, and he came with his attorney, and they were actually able, the news found out that he was coming and was able to walk right up on him and ask questions. So he was able to give an interview before he turned himself in. So I want y'all to hear this.
Simply because once we identified him as the person being in that picture, we refused to talk to the police. So they felt like since we refused to talk, they'll go ahead and issue a felony murder warrant. And that's what happened in this case. He's being arrested solely because he refused to cooperate.
So you're saying this is retaliatory?
Absolutely. It's no question. If they had evidence that he killed this child, they would have certainly made an arrest before now. But they decided that once I identified him as the person in that picture and we wouldn't cooperate, then they decided, let's show him. We're going to issue a murder warrant.
And he's still saying he didn't shoot anyone?
Absolutely. He never fired a weapon at all that day.
And why did he have a gun out there?
Because the Second Amendment to the Constitution says you have a right to carry a weapon in the public. And that's what he was doing, exercising his Second Amendment right.
Yeah, what's that in the bag, Jack?
Those are the things that clean underwear and things like that, because we know it's going to be a while, so we want to make sure that he has underwear and T-shirts.
And he told me the other day, I don't know if he said, Secoriea had her funeral day. Anything you want to say to the family?
Not at all. He just simply hate that child lost her life.
And I know he said Second Amendment was allowing to have that gun out there, registered licensed gun owner for that gun.
He just has a right to carry a weapon in public. You don't need a license to do that. Thank you.
Boy. Sound like he got some good representation, to be honest with you. Can't be mad at somebody having good representation. I'll tell you that.
New at 5, 2 men now facing 37 charges after an 8-year-old girl was shot and killed in Atlanta 1 year ago on the 4th of July. The district attorney is accusing them of being gang members set on trying to control a street after police shot and killed Rayshard Brooks nearby a couple of weeks before. 11 Alive's John Sherrick has more on today's indictment. And John, what's interesting here is only one of the men is charged with murder in Secoriea Turner's death.
And the DA said the charges, as they are listed in the indictment, are appropriate to what happened. Secoriea Turner, 8 years old. District Attorney Fonnie Willis says she was the innocent victim of gang violence. Julian Conley, accused in this case of being the triggerman. Jerry and McKinney accused of participating. Willis says they were members of the Bloods along with Rayshard Brooks, and that they and others had set up an illegal street barricade to protest an Atlanta police officer shooting and killing Brooks nearby. Willis says Secorea's mom accidentally drove up on that barricade and the gang members opened fire on her car, killing Secoriea.
Their motive was that a member of their gang had been killed, and it was outrage to the loss of that life. There are others out there this day responsible for this behavior, to include the taking of this baby's life. We as a community cannot stand for this kind of behavior that takes the loss of innocence.
Willis says she has video of everything, but just needs the public's help identifying the other people who opened fire. As for Rayshard Brooks, his attorney tells us, the attorney for his family tells us, that they had no knowledge that he was involved with any alleged gang activity. The family of Secoriea Turner is expected to be speaking here shortly. We will bring you their comments coming up at 6.
All right, John, thank you so much.
A second man now charged in connection with last year's shooting of an 8-year-old girl in Atlanta. A warrant revealing a possible gang connection to this case and accusing Jerry and McKinney of manning an illegal barricade to block vehicles the night Secoriea Turner was killed. The little girl riding in the backseat of a car at the time. Joe Hankey following the
and killed on July 4th, 2020, while sitting in a car near Pryor Road and University Avenue in southwest Atlanta. Weeks earlier on June 12th and yards away, an Atlanta police officer shot and killed Rayshard Brooks in a nearby Wendy's parking lot while trying to arrest him for DUI. Prosecutors claim in the warrants the Bloods gang and others took control of a stretch of University Avenue in response to the killing of Brooks and used barricades and violence through the brandishing, pointing, and discharging of firearms at citizens and civilians to ensure compliance with their authority in a highly visible manner. The warrants also detail the Bloods' involvement the day after Brooks' death in burning the Wendy's where he was killed. Jerry McKinney's arrest warrants identify him and co-defendant Julian Conley as Bloods' gang members or associates based on evidence collected by the GBI. On July 4th, McKinney and Conley and other unnamed co-conspirators are accused of stopping and pointing guns at a MARTA bus driver before allowing the bus through the roadblock. According to the warrant, hours later that night, a car pulled up. Conley, McKinney, and 3 others pointed their guns at the driver and forced him to turn around. Minutes later, the car with Turner inside approached, received a similar response, and the driver then attempted to drive around the barricade. Conley began to discharge his weapon, an AR-15 style rifle, and McKinney chased the vehicle down the road away from the area. 11 days after the shooting, Julian Conley turned himself into Atlanta police to face murder charges for Turner's death. McKinney is also charged with aggravated assault for allegedly pointing his gun at the driver who approached the roadblock moments before Turner was shot. He remains in jail tonight, charged now with murder, aggravated assault, and several crimes under Georgia's criminal street gang law.
And again, I'll tell you guys, this whole thing is senseless. And again, I'll remind you guys about that peace sign. That peace sign is supposed to mean something positive, but clearly it doesn't mean anything to these people that took that baby's life. This little girl could have grown up to become anything. She could have grown up to make a change in the world, but I think she should be given an opportunity to be able to live that out and do so. But again, I think it shows maximum hypocrisy, and the rest of the world is going to continue to call this out, because I know that there are a lot of people out there that be like, you know what, people shouldn't say that black lives should matter to black people if you're not a black person. Yeah, actually, everybody should be able to say that, especially when they see what you're doing is a detriment to your own kind. Everybody should have the right to voice their opinion about those things. People get mad about stereotypes rather than just choosing not to live the stereotypes. Stereotypes don't mean a damn thing if you don't live by them. I know we have people out there that are going to say, well, this is why we need to change the laws back and we need to get the guns off the street. No, guns are going to be in thugs' hands regardless. So it seems like it makes sense that regular citizens ought to be able to arm themselves to be able to protect themselves and their families. But the fact that these individuals took over streets that they didn't own, barricaded streets that they didn't own, bombed and burned a restaurant that they didn't own, stopped a mother with her child and friend in the car that they didn't own, told them to turn around, they didn't know what was going on, and got shot at, and killed that baby girl to prove what point? That we run this city? Really? This I block? This Atlanta homie? To prove what? So the lives of all of those people mattered, those grown adults mattered more than lives like Malia Bass, Malia Davis, Camille Cupcake McKinney, Orrin and Orson West, Paris Bradley, Samantha Bell, Mackenzie Jade, Anaya Garrett, Nala Miller, Caden Swan, Alizana Carter, Loyalty Allah, and this baby here. What did Secoriea Turner lose her life for? It was senseless. And until we continue to open our eyes and realize what the real problem is, all of these broken homes, having all of these children outside of wedlock, and all of these boys who grow up to become men with no fathers, who have no value in themselves, are not going to see value in other people. I continue to keep saying this. The problems start at home, and now others are having to suffer because of that, because they're running around rampant and festering around everybody else. But nobody's going to continue to call that out, and nobody's going to see that as a problem. But the problem starts at home, and we have to start valuing nuclear families, and we have to start valuing good fathers and good mothers, or better yet, great fathers and great mothers. And we really have to start getting back to loving ourselves, like truly loving ourselves. And this is just a situation that sucks all the way around. So my condolences to the biological mother and father, to the family and friends of Secoriea Turner. Secoriea Turner, young princess. Let me see if I can find a good picture of her, even though I like that one. Let's use this one. R.I.P. I'm DJ Just Jay, and I thank you guys so much for listening with an open mind. More importantly, with an open heart. And from my heart to yours, I love you all. Thank y'all so much for listening to the story. Thank you.